What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com.
Here are my DFS picks for NFL Week 11, Monday Night Football.
These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button
And hit that bell icon
so you don't miss our new videos.
Okay guys, in this video, I'm going to give you my top DFS picks for this Monday Night Football showdown between the LA Rams and the Tampa Bay Bucks. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Okay guys, let's take a look at the quarterback position. So neither of these quarterbacks have a good matchup, so let's go over both of these quarterbacks. We got Tom Brady from the Tampa Bay Bucks. The LA Rams have a good defense overall, and they give up the second fewest fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. Tom Brady has averaged 22.1 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 1.9 rush attempts per game. He scored 35, 5, and 19 fantasy points in the last 3 games, and he's projected at 18.7 fantasy points here tonight, and he's 11,000 DraftKings salary. Vegas thinks there's going to be 48.5 points scored in this game, and they have the Bucks favored by 4. So the concern here is that the Tampa Bay Bucks get an early lead in this game, and then they lean on the running game, so Tom Brady may not have a lot of pass attempts in the fourth quarter, but he's by far the better quarterback with more upside, so I like Tom Brady here versus the LA Rams. And on the other side of the ball, we have Jared Goff from the LA Rams, and the Tampa Bay Bucks have a good defense overall, and they give up the 5th fewest fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. Jared Goff has averaged 19 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 3.2 rush attempts per game. He scored 15, 17, and 17 fantasy points in the last 3 games, projected at 17.4 fantasy points here tonight, and he's 9,800 DraftKings salary. So because the Rams are projected to be trailing in this game, it should be a passing game script. Jared Goff has some excellent wide receivers, but he's had good matchups in the past and not produced a lot of fantasy points. But I do like the salary savings on Jared Goff with that passing game script, so I like Jared Goff here versus the Tampa Bay Bucks. Okay, let's take a look at the running back position. We have 2 running backs in play for both of these teams. For the Tampa Bay Bucks, you have Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette, and for the LA Rams, you have Darrell Henderson and Malcolm Brown. So I'm not going to go over all these running backs, but they're all in play here tonight. Now, last week, Ronald Jones had a big game and Malcolm Brown had a big game. But if we're looking at the salary for tonight's game, I think my favorite play at the running back position would be Leonard Fournette, who's only averaging 9.8 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 7.4 rush attempts per game and 3.8 pass targets per game. So not as much volume as Ronald Jones, but he's going to be about half the price here at only 4,400 DraftKings salary, projected at 10.7 fantasy points here tonight. Ronald Jones rushed the ball 23 times last game compared to Leonard Fournette, who only rushed the ball 8 times. So if the Tampa Bay Bucks get a lead in this game, maybe they give Ronald Jones a rest here and give some more opportunity to Leonard Fournette. So because of the low salary, I like Leonard Fournette here versus the LA Rams. Okay, now for the Rams, both Darrell Henderson and Malcolm Brown are around the same salary, so I think it's a coin toss there. Malcolm Brown is coming off of a 19 fantasy point game, but he only got 6 rush attempts and 2 pass targets. So he scored a lot of fantasy points, but he did it on low volume. Darrell Henderson Jr. gets more volume on average, but they're both around the same salary. Darrell Henderson Jr. is $5,800 DraftKings salary, and Malcolm Brown is $5,400 DraftKings salary. Darrell Henderson projected at 10 fantasy points, and Malcolm Brown projected at 7.3 fantasy points. So I think it's a coin flip between these two LA Rams running backs.
Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all the tools for NFL, MLB is still going, NBA is right around the corner. This is a great time to get in and try everything for 1 month. The tools are all about saving research time. You can see the last 3 games, the fantasy points per game, the targets they got per game, so you can see how involved they are in the offense, the rushes they got per game. Seeing all this stuff on one screen helps you save time and make better picks. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups.
Okay, moving on to the wide receiver position. I like Mike Evans from the Tampa Bay Bucks. He's averaging 14.5 fantasy points per game, getting an average of 6.3 pass targets per game. He scored 20, 10, and 17 fantasy points in the last 3 games off of 11, 6, and 7 pass targets. He's projected at 13.2 fantasy points here tonight, and he's $9,000 DraftKings salary. So it looks like Mike Evans is getting a little bit more pass volume in the recent games than does Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin has got 12 pass targets in the last 2 games, and Mike Evans has got 17 pass targets in the last 2 games. So I like the increased passing volume of Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin is only $600 cheaper on DraftKings, so it's not a huge salary savings there. So I like Mike Evans here versus the LA Rams. Okay, now for the LA Rams, I like Robert Woods, who's averaging 15.3 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 6.7 pass targets per game. He's on the field for 89% of the snaps. He's projected at 14.3 fantasy points here tonight. He's $8,200 DraftKings salary. Oh, and he also gets about 2 rush attempts per game. He got 4 rush attempts just a few games ago, so I think that's a big bonus that he gets a couple of rush attempts on top of those 6 to 8 pass targets per game. So I like Robert Woods here versus the Tampa Bay Bucks. Now, if you're looking to save a little salary here at the wide receiver position, take a look at Josh Reynolds from the LA Rams. He's averaging 9.2 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 5.3 pass targets per game. But take a look at his last 3 games. He scored 17, 8, and 15 fantasy points in the last 3 games off of 10, 9, and 8 pass targets. He's projected at 10.4 fantasy points here tonight, and he's $6,800 DraftKings salary. So I like that increased passing volume, and this should be a passing game script. So I like Josh Reynolds here versus the Tampa Bay Bucks. Now I just want to mention Antonio Brown because he got 8 pass targets last game, scored 14 fantasy points. He's $7,800 DraftKings salary, and he's been on the field for 100% of the snaps since he started playing on this team. He's projected at 12.7 fantasy points here tonight. So I think he makes a nice complementary wide receiver if you're going to stack Tom Brady, Antonio Brown, and then either Mike Evans or Chris Godwin. So I like Antonio Brown here versus the LA Rams. Okay, moving on to the tight end position. So we have a couple of tight ends that are in play for each team. We have Rob Gronkowski and Cameron Brate for the Tampa Bay Bucks. And then we have Tyler Higbee and Gerald Everett for the LA Rams. Now, Rob Gronkowski and Tyler Higbee, those are the tight ends that they have priced up here on DraftKings. where Gerald Everett and Cameron Brate are more than half the price. So I prefer the lower salary tight ends here tonight. I like Gerald Everett from the LA Rams, who's averaging 6.5 fantasy points per game on the season off of 3.3 pass targets per game. He scored 5, 8, and 13 fantasy points in the last 3 games off of 3, 9, and 5 pass targets. He's projected at 5.9 fantasy points here tonight, and he's only $2,600 DraftKings salary. So you gotta find some salary relief in your lineup somewhere, and with a passing game script here for the LA Rams, I like Gerald Everett here versus the Tampa Bay Bucks. And for the Bucks, I like the salary savings of Cameron Brate, who scored 12 fantasy points last game off of 3 pass targets. He's only projected at 3 fantasy points here tonight, but it's because he just doesn't get a lot of passing volume, but he'll get a handful of targets. And he's only $2,200 DraftKings salary, so he's $4,000 cheaper than Rob Gronkowski, and they both got 3 pass targets last game. So I like Cameron Brate here versus the LA Rams.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smiggity smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NFL slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again and good luck.